Okay, so today we're going to start our linear functions unit, and this is a really important unit in algebra. Our first thing we're going to talk about is the slope of a line. All right, now slope is something you are familiar with. You see it all the time in your daily lives, whether it's the slope of a roof, the pitch, okay, or the steepness of your stairs. This is a very steep staircase, or a hill, or whatever. This is called slope. Okay, and we're going to learn how to find the slope from a line and from a graph. Okay, what is it? How do I find it? Okay, what is slope? It simply measures the steepness of a line. So how steep a line is, okay? And you might have a line like this. You think about if you were walking up this hill, you'd say, well, that's not a very good person, but if you were walking up that hill, that's not very steep. But now if you were trying to walk up that's a little steeper. And now this is even steeper. So this slope measures and assigns a number to that steepness. Okay. All right, some things about slope. This is kind of an important slide right here. And let's talk about this a little further. So first of all, slope measures how steep a line is. That's what we just said. It is always written as a fraction in simplest form. It must be reduced. So this is an important piece. Reduced. That's why we spent a little time reducing fractions. And how do we find it? It is the vertical change, known as rise, over the horizontal change, known as run. You can see that here. Okay, vertical change, rise, divided by run. Okay, we use the letter M to represent slope. Okay, and there's some debate as to why they use M. We won't get into that necessarily, but it's M for slope. So whenever you see M, you should be thinking that represents slope. Okay, now we have 4 types of slope. You can see here, this first one right there, this, as you read, kind of going from left to right, this is going up. So this is a positive slope. So anytime you have a line that's going this like this, you should end up with a positive number. Okay, this one, as you're going from left to right, it's going down. So this has a negative slope. Okay, this one, there is no change as you go from left to right. It's flat, so the slope here is 0. Think of if you are walking on flat ground, how steep is that hill? Well, there is no hills. It has a steepness of 0. Okay, and then this is very, very steep. So steep, actually, we call this undefined. And we'll kind of talk about why that is here in a bit. But the thing you really want to know, M equals rise divided by run. Okay. Okay, so as we just said, rise is up and down. Just think of like an elevator going up and down. Okay, you always start with this number when you're trying to find your slope first. That should be on top, okay, of your fraction. Okay, so rise, when you go up, this should be a positive number when you count up. Okay, so now if we look at the graph here, when you're in the middle, this should make some sense. When you go up, notice all these values are positive. Okay, now when you go down, they're negative. And hopefully that makes sense too. If you just think about here going down, this is negative. Okay, so if you count down 7 units, you're going to write -7 because you went down. All right. Now, run. Run is right and left. So again, kind of thinking this way. If we go right on the graph, notice that's positive. Okay, and if you go left on the graph, that's negative. Okay, so here we go. We're going to apply this. Before we do that, there's a couple things I want to talk about with fractions and slope. As we mentioned before, make sure whenever you're doing your slope, your fractions are reduced. So something like 12/9, you would want to use your calculator to reduce that, or your head, reduce it. You say, oh, that's 4/3. By the same token here, 5/1 is not reduced. You can simplify that even further to just 5. And then same thing with this one. -4/-7. Okay, you find that. That's not quite simplified. Negative divided by a negative, you want to type that into your calculator. If you don't remember those things, this is actually +4/7. So make sure you always reduce. And then a note about negative. Sometimes you'll see the negative out in front in a fraction, but this is also the same as if you put it on the top of the fraction, or you can also assign it to the bottom. All three of these things mean the same thing. Okay, you can use any of those three. Just don't, they are not the same as both of them being negative. Okay, so because now you've just made it positive. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay, and then lastly, let's say you end up with 4/0. What is 4 divided by 0? Well, let's try. Let's take a look at our calculator. Okay, 4 divided by 0. Notice when you try to do this, it gives you an error message. It says divide by 0. The reason for that is we cannot divide by 0. This is an illegal move in mathematics. Oops. So this is why we said before, this is undefined. This is our value. If you try to divide by 0, you're going to get undefined. Now, if you do 0 divided by 4, okay, let's do that. 0 divided by 4, that's okay. You get 0. So you need to keep that straight. Can't divide by 0, but it's okay for the for you to have 0 in the numerator on the top. Okay, so those are just some notes about fractions and slope. Okay, how do we do this? Let's take a look. Rise over run. Remember, rise first, vertical change over run, horizontal change. So I'm going to write, and we'll stick with blue, M. Okay, so now I have a couple of points. I got one here, and I got one here. All right, it does not matter where you start. Pick a point to start at. Just make sure you go either up or down first. So now I'm going to start at this point right here. I'm going to start at that one. It doesn't matter which one you do. But I'm going to go, in order to get to this point right here, I have to go up. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. With 7 units. Now because I went up, it's positive. So I'm just going to write 7. Remember, when you count up, positive. When you go down, that should be negative. Okay, now from here, I now have to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the right. Now whenever I go to the right, remember that's positive as well. So this is 4. Okay, and then you want to type this into your calculator like we show you to make sure that that's reduced. So you would go 7 divided by 4, math, freaking frac, we get 7/4. That's already reduced. So we're good. So this is my answer. Simple and reduced. Make sure it's always simplified. That's super important. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, real quickly, before I move on, let's say you started at this point, okay, instead. So you were here. Then you went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, if you go down, you say that's -7. And then I got to go 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. Well, because I went to the left, that's negative 4. Now, if I type that into my calculator, negative 7 divided by negative 4, hit math. Notice I still get 7/4 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So either way, I end up with 7/4. Just make sure you reduce it. It does not matter which point you start at. So that's kind of an important note. All right, let's try this next one here. Rise. Remember, you always have to go up and down first. Okay, I have 2 points. Oops. I can pick either one you want to start at. I usually pick the one on the left first, so I like to start, I'm going to start here. And now to get to this point over here, I've got to go down 1, 2, 3 units. So because I went down, that's negative. And now I got to go to the right. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Went to the right, so that's positive, right? So now my slope, rise, negative 3 over 9. Now we want to make sure that that is always reduced. So we're going to reduce that, and we'll do that on our calculator. Negative 3 divided by 9, math, press enter a couple times, and I get negative 1/3. Okay. That is my answer. That's my slope. Okay. All right. That's how we find our slope. Okay. What I'd like you to do is to try this here. You have 2 problems. I'm going to put you in breakout rooms and have you try these 2 problems with a couple other people. I would suggest that you take a screenshot right now of this so you can do that. I'll pause here so we can do that. All right, how did we do? This one, you have 2 points. Doesn't matter where you start. Remember, rise should go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3 over. So 5 over 3. That is reduced, so that is my answer right there. Okay, the second one. You've got 2 points here again. Pick one that makes the most sense to you. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Rise. So I'm going to say I'm going to start at this point right here. Okay, so that means rise up and down first. So I've got to go down to get to this point. 1, 2, 3. Because I went down, that's negative 3. But now I've got to go 1 unit to the right. That's positive. Okay, so my slope here would be negative 3 over 1. You want to reduce that or simplify that. If you do that on your calculator, you should get negative 3. And that's your answer for that one. Okay. Hope this makes sense. Ask if you have any questions. All right. See ya.